Yes. Mr. Antonio,
Here.
Mr. Badger,
Here.
Mr. Bleefeld,
Here.
Ms. Kiavachi,
Here.
Mr. Golson, Ms. Karyonikis,
Here.
Dr. Morris,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mrs. Ginsburg.
Here.
Gavin Lewis Richmond,
Here.
and Blake Zimmerman.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent, and 2 student board reps this evening.
Thanks, Katie. All right, now everybody please join me in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. And I have some helpers here this evening. Thank you. Welcome everyone to this March 4th meeting of the Wissahickon School Board. If you take a look at our agenda, you'll see a listing of our prior meetings. We met on January 29th for a work session, February 5th for a regular public board meeting, February 20th for a policy meeting, as well as a board racial equity oversight committee meeting. On February 21st, we met for a finance committee budget workshop, February 26th for a communications meeting, as well as a work session. And earlier this evening, we had a board curriculum and technology committee meeting. We then list our upcoming meetings. On March 11th, we'll have a board racial equity oversight committee meeting. March 12th will be a finance committee budget workshop. March 18th will be a work session, and April 2nd, a regular public board meeting. All right, now we have our presentation for the evening, and we're going to welcome Stony Creek Elementary.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephanie Washam. I'm the proud principal at Stony Creek Elementary. And what I am here to highlight, and these wonderful people behind me are here to highlight, Stony Creek's music program. So Mrs. St. Jules has been teaching at Wissahickon and has been here for almost 30 years. So many of the people walking in said, my children either had you as a music teacher, I had you as a music teacher, and her impact has been seen across the Wissahickon community. And when I started here as principal this year, one of the things that I was blown away by was the number of students enrolled in the music program here. I have been so excited to learn all about it, listen to them, and watch them perform. So I wanted to just highlight some of the things that we have at Stony Creek. So obviously, like all Wissahickon schools, we have general encore for music. We have strings for 3rd through 5th grade, band, chorus, and our musical, which is gearing up right now. For those of you who have not seen a Stony Creek musical, I am incredibly excited to see the performance. The kids are amazing. We really enjoy using different types of percussion instruments. We have everything from drumming, dancing. I got to observe a polka dance actually yesterday happening. They are always engaging in something new. And our HSA has been very supportive. We've gotten extra gallon drums for our drumming program, the recorders that they're doing, the ukulele. Honestly, every time I walk into music, I never want to leave. So if you have the chance to come visit us at Stony Creek, come check out some of our music lessons. Our strings, which we will get to see a snippet of some of our performers here tonight. They're invited in 3rd grade and they continue playing through 4th and 5th grade. We get to have 14 string students that also play band here. And we have 85 students total in the program, which is very large for strings. Our band, I believe, is actually even larger. So they have 30-minute lessons once or twice a week. And then morning band rehearsals. All of our parents are absolutely amazing for dropping off for early strings lessons. I get to see everybody as we're arriving in the morning. And then at band, we have 4th and 5th grade playing the band with Miss Rushton. Our band, we have 110 students that participate in band. 40 4th graders joined the band this year, which is the biggest ever. And ours is the largest of all elementary schools. We actually, thank you, Wissahickon School District, just got new risers because we all couldn't fit on them. We have so many kids who are in our music and between our chorus and our performers. They're playing a lot of really exciting music and they're so hardworking and talented. Our chorus and our musical is in full swing. I see them practicing in the hallways, in classrooms. We have parent volunteers with dances and teachers. It's just really such a piece of joy and excitement that helps make us a well-rounded school. So our musical, we have 97 students in chorus and 125 students participating in our spring musical. It's Finding Nemo. It's adorable. Come see us. We'll be sharing more information. And it's going to be, the production is May 22nd and the 23rd. So if you want to come see us, please do. And without further ado, I'd like to highlight our string players. They're going to be playing some songs for you and honoring Miss St. Jules for her almost 30 years of service that she's had at Wissahickon this year. Come on up, guys.
Our names are Maya Zalalo, Anna Kwan, Rachel Kim, Justin Pyo, and Arash Agarwal. And we come from Stony Creek. We will be performing Perpetual Motion and Andantino by Suzuki, an English folk song.
Been a pleasure to perform for you. These kids were very excited. They designed this whole thing by themselves. I was just an accompanist and I was there to help.
Thank you so much for that performance. And I have to say, the music program at Stony is just amazing. I have 3 kids and all of them have been at Stony. My 2 older ones have both been students of Miss St. Jules and both have played the viola. And I'm so sad. I'm happy for you that you're retiring, but also sad that my youngest will never get to be one of your students. But glad my older 2 did. And they've also been part of the band and chorus and the plays at Stony. And it's just such an amazing program. And all of our schools have amazing musical programs. But if you haven't had the chance to go to Stony Creek to see one of our musical performances, please get out and see one of them. They're really amazing. So thank you so much for coming to perform this evening. Did anyone else have any comments or questions? Yeah, Duffy.
I too want to thank all our musicians who came in today. Mrs. St. Jules, my daughter, came through your program. And even in high school, she's not playing cello anymore, but she is a musician and she plans to go to college for music. So yeah, so I am thrilled that our school district has such a great music program. When I tell people that my kid got to play a string in 3rd grade, they're like, "What? In public school?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I think it's beautiful that we offer such a really great thing for our kids because it teaches them things that are important and probably they will have forever because They need to understand cues and understand how to look at each other and like all these subtle things that you can't learn in a classroom. And I'm glad that this is something that we offer our students for those who are interested. So I'm sorry that we're voting for your resignation today. But- Retirement, sorry, your retirement, but, you know, you're going to be missed. Thank you so much for your service.
Any other comments? Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate all of you on a job well done. I was sitting here as I came in and I had a flashback to when my children, who are adults now, were in this program, in the string program. And a wonderful program. There's nothing like playing, and if you've never had the opportunity to play in an ensemble, it's a special feeling that you get when you're in a group and you're like making this beautiful music. So congratulations to you all. And as I'm a musician as well. So as my teacher always said to me, perfect practice makes perfect performance. Good job.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Amy, I just want to make note of the common theme of all of the students that we all seem to know somebody who has gone through the program with Mrs. St. Jules. I'm included in that group. My two kids, my two boys, started their love of music with you many, many moons ago at this point. They are lifelong musicians. One of them is going to be a lifelong musician in his career, I believe, and that all started with your program at Stony Creek, and we are indebted to you for that. And so for all the kids that are listening, not only did you do a great job tonight, but who knows where we'll see you in the future as you build upon your passion for what you do. And if you need a trumpet, I have a barely used one at home because it just didn't take. But other than that, everything was absolutely wonderful. And you did an amazing job. You broke a leg, which is what you always say. And congratulations on a wonderful performance and a wonderful career.
Any? Oh, Debbie, something else? Oh, yes.
I just want to say thank you to Mrs. St. Jules because I personally was a student of Mrs. St. Jules for 3 years and I have fond memories of it. And I believe it has developed me as a person. And I still am in the Wissahickon High School Symphony Orchestra. So thank you. And I hope a happy retirement for you. Thank you.
All right, well, we always get a picture, and since we have so many people touched by Miss St. Jules. Yeah, we're gonna get Blake, Debbie, Marshall, and me all in this picture with this group, okay? So let's come on up here. All right, Stony families, you are welcome to stay, or you may leave. And we do have goodies out there, so please take some if you are leaving. The rest of the evening will be just as exciting. No more musical performances. Bye, everyone that is leaving. All right, so we will keep going. All right, we are at our first public comment period. I know we have a couple for our second public comment period. I do not see anyone registered for the first one. Anyone online?
No raised hands on Zoom tonight.
All right, we will keep moving on. We have our board president report. And this evening I have up, let's see, approval of our board meetings for 24-25 school year. So last week we reviewed these dates and this week we're going to be voting on them. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
Just thank you for double checking on the dates.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, Steve and I appreciate that.
All right, seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on to the superintendent report.
Thank you. No informational or action items tonight.
Thank you, Jim. Assistant superintendent report.
Thank you. Good evening. There are no informational or action items this evening.
Thank you. Board solicitor report.
Thank you. We have one action item tonight for its approval of settlement agreement between the district and families. We're looking for a motion to approve.
Two, Michelle. A24 and B24.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. We have two. Sorry about that. Thank you. Two motions between families and the district for approval. We need approval of action items 10.1 and 10.2.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Board secretary report.
He's out just helping.
Gotcha. Okay. Should we jump to human resources and we can come back? Danielle?
All right, good evening. Changes from last week's agenda are marked with an asterisk and can be found in bold in the details. These include resignations, a retirement, a rescinded acceptance, extracurricular changes, and volunteer additions. All other items were reviewed at last week's work session and have no other changes. I will be seeking an approval for action items 13.1 through 13.3 tonight. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Communications committee.
I have no informational or voting items this session.
All right, thank you. Curriculum and technology committee meeting. Our committee report. Excuse
Yes,
me.
we do have something and Dr. Dewan is gonna explain that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. This evening, we have 3 action items. I'll start with our one informational item though. Earlier this evening at 6 o'clock, we had a board curriculum and technology committee meeting. The agenda included a focus on challenged school library materials. Dr. Crisfield started that meeting by recapping the process for how we handle the citizen report for reconsideration of school library material. The process is outlined in policy number 144, specifically in the section that focuses on challenged materials. Part of this process includes that if a complainant is dissatisfied with the library review committee's decision, they can request for the board to render a final decision as to the appropriateness of challenged materials. So there were 2 challenged books that were on the agenda for this evening's meeting. While these were not the first books to be challenged in our district, these were the first books that were where the complainant appealed to the board. The books being challenged were Pride Puppy and What Are Your Words? A Book About Pronouns. Prior to this evening's meeting, the board curriculum technology committee members were provided with the 2 books to review, along with supplemental materials that were submitted by the complainant. While the board at this meeting, then following Dr. Crisfield's opening, the board opened a discussion among the board curriculum and technology committee members where they had comments about the books and the documents that they received. The board then opened up the floor for public comments, and there were a few comments from the public. And finally, the board committee members voted, and the outcome was that they were in favor of upholding the board, the library book committee's decision. Part of this process will include that the complainant will be notified by our board solicitor, which will occur sometime this week. Yeah. And that concludes our report in terms of that informational item. Are there any questions or comments before we move on to the action items?
I think too, I just want to make a comment about how we did discuss that if a parent has a particular issue with a particular book, they can request that their child not be able to check that book out. So they can make a decision for their own child, but not for other children is kind of what the theme was for our decision.
Okay. As I mentioned, we do have 3 action items this evening, all of which were reviewed during the board workshop meeting last Monday, and there have been no changes. So this evening, we're seeking a motion to approve action items 15.2 through 15.4.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, facilities and transportation.
Thank you. There are no informational items this evening. And for vote this evening, we have 3 action items which were discussed and reviewed at our work session last week, and they're unchanged from that meeting. So with that, I'm seeking a motion for approval of action items 16.1 through 3.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we're gonna jump back to board secretary report. Wade, thank you for helping with the piano.
Sure.
Thank you. There's been no changes to the motions seeking approval for items 11-1 through 4.
Can I have a motion?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Treasurer report?
Thank you very much. And yes, there was no changes to the treasurer's report either. So we're seeking approval of action item 12.1.
So moved.
Second. A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
All right, now we will go back down to the finance committee report. Steve?
Only one informational item from our last working session. There were some questions from the board on the musical instruments bid. And so just, I don't know if there's any further information on the questions.
Would you mind just telling me what the questions were?
Yeah, it was just a little confusing because it wasn't clear if all of the bids were bids on the same project or whether they were bids that add up that are part of the same project.
Sure. So the way we usually present the bids are anybody who bids is included in the summary, even if they don't win a bid. And then the total of the bid is what we're requesting. So it would be the individual items. So National Education Music Company isn't getting anything. They have 0. So because they weren't low bid on any of the individual items. Then the next one would be Music and Arts. They are the low bid for $6,640.56, et cetera. And then the total is what we're seeking approval for. Is that help?
That does.
Okay.
And I'm just going to ask if others have any other questions with that explanation.
No, that's helpful. I felt like this was a bit vague because it also didn't explain what we're actually bidding for, like what instruments
Yes.
or like it just seemed a little bit hard to understand what this was for.
It's a very, very valid question. So we can send tomorrow a list of all the musical instruments. The background is that at the high school, there was transition from one teacher to another. The teacher did an evaluation and the individual musical instruments. I can tell you sort of off the top of my head, I remember expensive drums, but it's a series of.
All instruments are
Correct.
expensive.
Yep. But I will send that list out to the board and again, these are the low bids. It is quite a bit of money and we are appreciative of the support for the musical programs.
And just to be clear, I'm very supportive of our program. I just wanted to understand what we're approving.
Yep, exactly. And I'll send you the individual lists of all the instruments. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, with that explanation, thank you very much, Wade and Zeffie. We're requesting approval of items 17.1 through 17.5.
So moved.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, policy committee.
Thank you. I have no informational items this evening. I am looking for approval of action items 18.1 through 18.7, which were reviewed last week and for which there are no changes.
So moved.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Racial Equity Oversight Committee, Paul?
Thanks, Amy. There are no informational items and no voting items tonight.
And we have that community listening session coming up, correct? And where is that taking place again? Penland. Okay, great. All right, thank you so much for that report. Health, wellness, and safety, Rosetta?
No informational items and no action items this evening. Thank you, Amy.
Extracurricular, Marshall?
There's nothing new to report tonight.
Thank you. NCIU, I did have one thing I wanted to share. As far as legislation, there is a new bill that's going around, HB 2043. That actually would require students, when entering the school building to put their phones or any device in a lockbox for the day. So they would not be allowed to have their cell phones or any devices at all during the day. So not even like in the classroom in those like pockets they have. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. There are like exceptions to it, like if they are an emergency responder or if they have a medical condition or a family with a medical condition. But that came up. And also there's Earth Day is coming up, and NCIU is doing a couple different projects, indoor and outdoor projects for Earth Day on their campus. And we also had our audit presentation, no issues at the NCIU. I guess, yeah, that's all I wanted to report on this evening. All right, back to my agenda. North Mako. Okay, PSBA?
Just Advocacy Day on April 8th, if anyone wants to join Zephy, Amy and I in Harrisburg, and nothing for ERC.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so now we're at our second public comment period. And we allow a maximum of 5 speakers on the same topic. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. For those of you who have not been with us recently, we do have a new buzzer system. So Katie does bring this buzzer when we get to the 3 minutes so that I don't miss it. It's now our practice to engage in dialogue with speakers. When appropriate, we do post responses on board docs. When approaching the podium, please state your name, your municipality of residence, and the topic on which you will be speaking. And we usually go back and forth. So I'll do an in-person one, and then Katie will check online to see if there's someone online. All right, so the first person I have is Abby Test.
I'm Abby Test. I'm from Lower Gwinnett, and I'm going to speak about the Wissahickon Middle School master schedule. Good evening. My name is Abby Test. I teach 7th grade social studies. I've taught middle school since 1992, and I've been at WIS since 2002. Our middle school has historically been a wonderful place to teach and learn, mostly due to our team structure. We work in teams. Students and parents know all about our teams. Every September, students are assigned to pods. Mine is the Dragons pod. We have 6 teachers who share about 130 students. Off-pod teachers also work in teams, which are departments. We work together to plan things to help foster a sense of unity. Of course, we work on academics, but we also plan fun things like field trips and pod days and end-of-year activities. Parents see our team structure when they join us for conferences. They meet with us as a group, a committee focused on their child's academic progress and support. But what parents and students don't see is everything that's going on behind the scenes, and it is a lot. Teams get together to write new curriculum, plan PSSAs, foster cultural responsiveness, mentor new teachers, student teachers, classroom assistants, honor student achievement, support new students, provide input for GIEPs, 405s, IEPs, ELL monitoring. We analyze MTSS data. We confer with specialists. We support students and families in crisis and students with health issues. We create action plans for chronic absenteeism. We use restorative practices to resolve conflicts. And I keep saying that these are the things that we do, but what I really should be saying is these are the things that we used to be able to do. Under our old schedule, core teachers had one period every single day to meet in teams, departments, and co-teaching pairs. Under the new schedule, core teachers meet for only 35 minutes every 3 days if they're not at an IEP meeting. Grade level departments no longer meet, not even during their prep, because most of us do not share common prep periods. We have co-teachers who have to teach together in the same classroom, but they don't have time to get together to plan co-taught lessons. The new schedule has crippled our exemplary team structure and the capacity of departments to collaborate. We are here tonight with a petition signed by almost 100% of our faculty and staff that says that the schedule needs to be restructured. I'd love to add also that many of us were nervous about signing and speaking out. And we ask, folks were nervous about retaliation, and we ask that you ensure that that does not happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Katie, do we have anyone registered online?
No raised hands on Zoom.
All right, then we'll move on to Susan Brown.
Good evening. I'm Susan Brown. I'm a music teacher in the middle school. I'm currently in my 31st year teaching in Wissahickon. I would like to speak to the piece of our new schedule that is referred to as the Trojan period. Trojan period is time during the school day where all students are assigned to a teacher, but in many cases, it's a different teacher every day. For me, Trojan time is when I meet with students for chorus. I currently have 6 chorus groups. It's a graded course, and I see a different group every day over the 6-day rotation. In our previous schedule, we had what was referred to as academic period. And during that period, it was for 7th and 8th graders. And this is when our performing arts classes met. The scheduled time was 42 minutes with a 3-minute passing time before and after. The current Trojan period has been reduced to 38 minutes without a 3-minute passing period before or after. So my 8th period class ends at 12:51 and chorus starts at 12:51. So by the time they arrive and settle in, I have maybe 34 minutes at that point, but then I have to stop early so that they can pack up so that they're not late for their next period class, which starts right when my course ends. Wissahickon families have come to expect great arts programs for their students, and I feel that our middle school program is an important part of that. With less practice time to prepare for great performances, I'm forced to choose lower level music that does not challenge my students as much as it has in the past. Our previous schedule had a longer homeroom period, 2 days out of every 6, and this period was used for various affinity groups that tie into our important equity and cultural responsiveness initiatives such as GSA, Reading Olympics, the Asian Student Association, and many others. The long homeroom is not in our new schedule, and these groups are now also meeting during the Trojan period. In sacrificing the longer homeroom this year, some students now are forced to choose between performing arts classes like band, chorus, and strings, and the many affinity groups that are offered. Other students receive reading support during Trojan time. These students feel that they are not able to choose to go to an affinity group or a music group because this is the only time that they have their reading support scheduled. Students need additional help to make up work that they've missed, and they also need to find time during their Trojan period to meet with teachers. Coordinating schedules with their teachers is challenging, as some of them also run affinity groups. Our students shouldn't have difficulty when making choices about how to use their Trojan period and how to participate in activities that interest them. There's been discussion about having affinity groups meet only once every 6 days, and this can alleviate some of the issues. However, students are still going to be making difficult decisions and choices, and programs can suffer. The Trojan period on paper seems to be, you know, a great idea, offering all these extra things. But when kids are forced to choose and our music program in general suffers, it's not worth it, in my opinion.
Thank you, Susan. Anyone online? Okay, then we'll move on to another Susan, Susan Degnan.
Hello, my name is Sue Degnan. I'm a sixth grade math teacher at the Wissahickon Middle School. I'm here to talk about class size and class makeup. I've been a teacher. This marks my 26th year and my 20th year in the Wissahickon School District, and I couldn't be more proud to be a member of the community for so long. Tonight, I share my colleagues' concerns about how our new middle school schedule is impacting learning for our students. The time I get to spend with my students in math this year has not changed, but the makeup of classes has changed. My math classes vary in size, but the number of students with IEPs, GIEPs, 504 plans, and ELD students has increased due to the new schedule's parameters. In one class, there may be only 4% of students that need support, and in the very next class, the largest class, there are 60% needing support. You can see larger class sizes do have the highest percentages of students needing support. Some WMS classes have up to 32 students in a classroom with one teacher. Other classes are slightly less. For example, during a 60-minute math class with 29 students, that would mean each child would get approximately 2 minutes of personalized attention during class. As the teacher, we need to present materials in a way that engages learners, meets them at their appropriate level of need, with supports in place to understand a language different from their native language, and meet specially designed instruction goals in IEPs, GIEPs, and 504 plans. But what if 2 minutes isn't long enough to address a student's need, as well as connect with them so they feel safe enough to say they're not getting it? With this year's larger class sizes, teachers find themselves stretched to meet the instructional requirements for all of their students, and relationships have suffered. In addition, lack of common planning time to plan those specially designed lessons is suffering as well. I leave school each day wondering how I can make a difference in my students' learning. What more can I do? I plan during the day. I plan at night around my own children. I work through lunch. I read articles on new teaching methods. I attend workshops and try to learn new things. But still, I don't have the time this year to provide the highest quality instruction that I have in the past. The only thing left to do is to ask you, on behalf of my students and my colleagues, can we please work towards a new, different schedule that gives all students access to the quality of education that Wissahickon is known for?
Thank you, Sue. Anyone online?
We have two. So the first one is Liz Safardi.
Okay. Liz, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, I am calling in about the proposed new policy. It's 105.2. So I just wanted to make a comment. Now going through the policy, section 4, it does state that the now this is in regards to exemption from instruction. It does state that the written request that would come from the parent or guardian, let's see, would need to could conflict with religious beliefs of the student or of the parent guardians, or include a statement outlining a specific PA statute. And the attached form that's in the proposed form, the language doesn't match what's in the proposed policy. So, for example, in the middle of that request for exemption form that's now online, the PDF, it says that the parent or guardians must specify the statutory basis, and that wouldn't be in alignment with with what I'm reading. So I just wanted to make a comment about that while you're going through the process. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Right, we'll move on now to our next in-person, Connie Ford.
Good evening. My name is Connie Ford, and I am one of the reading specialists at Wissahickon Middle School. It is my 28th year in the district and my 32nd year teaching remedial reading. I started my WIS journey in the elementary schools before landing at the middle school, which I absolutely love. The staff is amazing and knowledgeable and caring. The students are incredible. They are smart and funny and insightful. I am here because the new middle school schedule is not what is best for many students, and especially not the reading support students. My students have lost in English language arts and reading support classes with the new schedule. Last year, every student had ELA 12 times per cycle, 2 class periods every day. My students had an additional 3 to 6 classes of reading support per cycle, depending on their individual needs. This year, my students have ELA 6 times a cycle and CME 3 times a cycle. Those 3 times a cycle is in place of an additional ELA class that every other student gets. I was explaining the new schedule to a parent, and she said that it seemed counterintuitive to pull a student from a class that they were struggling in. I absolutely agree. Last year, many reading support and special education services were in place of world language. This may not seem fair, but fair is not always equal. Fairness means treating people according to their needs. These students need to be more proficient in English to succeed in high school and beyond. If we want to close the achievement gap, these students need more instruction, more time, and more practice. Instruction is only one aspect of teaching middle school students. They also need to have a sense of belonging and feel that they matter. I pride myself in the relationships that I have been able to develop with my students. Working with students in small groups is most impactful for both student learning and belonging. I saw a former student last week who was proud to tell me that he is now in honors ELA in 10th grade. I worry that the new schedule will make these success stories harder to achieve. The time constraints imposed by the new schedule present new challenges to meeting the needs of all of my students. In taking time away from reading support classes, we risk failing the at-risk who need us the most. I ask for the board's help in developing our middle school schedule that benefits our amazing students, especially mine.
Thank you, Patty.
We do.
Okay.
We have Carmina Taylor.
All right, Carmina, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
So I'm going to try to be brief. I really was, I tried to get on to this through the internet, and it was very difficult. So not being able to pull down the Zoom link from the calendar is just crazy. But here's the point. I listened to the first speaker, and the last few things that she said is that she wanted to make sure that you guys heard what a challenge it was to share that in fear of being retaliated against. And then this last speaker just talked about the gap of educational equity. So kids are not having the access to thrive appropriately. And I just want to tell you about a story that happened. During COVID, there was a Stony Creek teacher that partnered up with me and some of the students when we tried to advocate for fair balance. She ended up being kind of like threatened to someone in the administration about, partnering up with me. So she chose to break away from me to go and do this thing according to the district. And when I warned her, I said, if you speak out, you're going to get dealt with from administration. And long story short, she spoke out and eventually she left Stony Creek. About a year and a half ago, she begged me, called me. She's no longer with the district. She begged me to help her to help her with her case against the district for the way that she was treated. So I just want to express to you guys that, after 8 years of the superintendent's contract being there are patterns of retaliation. There's patterns of discontent of staff and administrators being unhappy. There's patterns of not feeling validated. And as a result of that, if you remember I think it was 3 or 5 years ago, when you got audited for the special education program, there was all these things in there about self-advocacy for students and proper communication to parents. So all these things are adding up and there's a pattern. And I remember when I reached out to Joe Antonio a few years ago, and I said, Joe, there's a pattern of leadership in another school district that the superintendent had for this one. And he said, Carmina, I don't care about what the superintendent did in New Jersey. I care about what he's doing here now. So 8 years later, where are we as a district and where are you guys in leadership and holding him accountable? You have people that are discontented, that are parents, teachers, administrators are not going to say anything. And I want you to go back and listen to what these people are saying. They're taking a risk and sharing about a curriculum that's being imposed on them, or a program, schedule that's being imposed on them. It just didn't come from the principal. It came from central administration. So there is a pattern. I hope you listen, and I hope you take in regard that these people took a risk in coming out and speaking out. That's the role of the board, to be an advocate for all.
Thank you, Carmina.
You're welcome.
All right, our next speaker is Carolyn Popovich.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Popovic, a German and French teacher at the high school. As a member of the high school world language department, I'm here to share that the cuts to the middle school world language program spread beyond the middle school. These changes represent a shift in our district's overall evaluation of second language acquisition. They're a sign that we have weakened our commitment to second language learning, and in doing so, we are communicating that world language learning, including the rich cultural studies embedded in the curricula, are less crucial now. Today, I chaperoned 35 high school students, including English language learners, to Shady Grove Elementary to showcase their second language skills for Read Across the World Day. Our high school students traveled with books in French, German, Spanish, Arabic, Ukrainian, Korean, Welsh, and American and sign language, and read them very proudly to 31 homerooms at the elementary school. Beyond fostering connections between the groups of students involved, this exchange provided a valuable context for students to flex their bilingual muscles. This afternoon, I met with Dr. Blair to advocate for even greater intra-district connections next year, as I hope to facilitate high school students' visits to more than just one elementary school. Our students shared their passion for a topic that has the potential to unite people with strangers across the globe, yet is one that we see weakening among our students right now: communication, which in turn leads to connection. Today's experience, compared with my reflections upon the recent changes to the world language program at the middle school, are conflicting, and I feel a bit of a sad sense of irony. I'd like to emphasize the need for improved communication skills among our students. I base this on feedback that we at the high school receive from recruiters, HR directors, college professors, and WIS alumni. World language provides an effective means towards the goal of improved cognitive function, including interpersonal communication, critical thinking, and ethical decision-making. In my lifetime, I've seen connections with screens strengthening while connections with one another weaken. Research on the benefits of bilingualism and second language learning is prevalent, and it is clear. Data shows that the bilingual experience improves the brain's command center, giving it the ability to plan, solve problems, and perform other mentally demanding tasks. Weakening our middle school world language program affects a phase of development when students are building communication confidence and skills, but also when their brain is gearing up for habits that may last a lifetime. World Language Studies frames that development in a worldview that often promotes an increase in curiosity, empathy, and tolerance. We understand the need to prioritize instructional hours in a district drives these kinds of changes, and we get that. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. No one online? Okay, then we'll move on to Kelly Broadbent-Nochi.
Alrighty. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and thank you to my colleagues for their continued support. My name is Kelly Broadbent. I've been the German teacher at the middle school for 8 years now. When I first started, I was so impressed by the passionate language educators that we have at this district and the strong language program that yielded much success. The recent cuts to the middle school language program have negatively impacted the program and our students. These cuts were made without any collaboration or discussion with the teachers, the experts in the field of language learning. We were told that because there's a level 1 course offered at the high school, that the level 1 course at the middle school should also be a year. However, this doesn't account for that at the high school. The classes are filled with 14, 15, 16-year-olds, even 17-year-olds sometimes in these level 1 classes, and not 12 or 13-year-olds. Also, some classes at the high school, students taking level 1 are repeating the same language that they took at the middle school, either because it was recommended by the teacher or because despite recommendation to move on to level 2, they decided to repeat level 1 themselves. In addition, sometimes students switch language from middle school to high school, but they've built up a metalinguistic background on how language works. It is unfair and impossible to have the same expectations and course goals in the middle school level 1 class as the high school. We simply need more time with our students at the middle school. Based on recommendations that we already made, the faculty for next year, I can predict that the enrollment of the honors and AP language classes in the high school goes down as a direct result of the cuts to the middle school language program. In addition, the 6th grade exploratory program was cut drastically with no reason given. We went from having about 15 to 16 classes with 6th graders to only having about 7 or 8. And now the class is a non-graded class, so we cannot give classwork, homework, or assessment worth points. This doesn't accurately represent how language will work in their future. In addition, students are missing extrinsic motivation to learn in our 6th grade language classes. And so now when these students enter in 7th grade, they're not only lacking motivation, but also have a preconceived notion that their language class isn't of importance. It is best for our students if we restore our previous exploratory program. I'm confident that we have the educators for a great language program in our district, but we need to readjust if we want to continue with a strong program. We simply need more time with our 7th and 8th grade students, and we need the full 6th grade exploratory program back. Dankeschön.
Dr. Sharon Kelly. All right. Anyone want? Okay. Sarah Horwood.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Horwitz, and I'm a current Spanish and French teacher at WHS, former French and Spanish teacher at WMS, and a class of 2014 WIS graduate. Wissahickons World Language Program has profoundly impacted my life's path, and I'm deeply grateful for the opportunities I've had to study and teach French and Spanish in the district. My distinct trajectory gives me unique insight to the district's World Language Program, and I draw from this perspective tonight to echo the concerns raised by my colleagues, as well as to express my disappointment that new generations of Wissahickon students will not be able to benefit from the same rich language learning opportunities that so powerfully shaped me. I flourished in Wissahickons World Language Program, which nourished my intellectual development along with my competencies as a language speaker. At WIS, I grew to understand French and Spanish outside the narrow lens of vocabulary lists and conjugation charts, and instead as dynamic constellations of sounds and structures threading human experiences across time and space. I won myriad awards at the local, state, and national levels for my accomplishments in French and Spanish, successes I was only able to achieve because Wissahickons World Language Program allowed me to explore and excel. I continued to thrive after high school when I attended the University of Pennsylvania and was a member of the University Scholars Honors Program. My peers at Penn were consistently impressed that I'd had such rich exposure to world languages before attending college, particularly through the 6th grade exploratory program. And I know that the practices of critical inquiry and radical empathy fostered by my Wissahickon French and Spanish classes allowed me to think, write, and reason effectively throughout my time at Penn. Of course, evaluating Wissahickons' world language program through the lens of elite college success is only one way to measure the program's value and impact, and it happens to be a reductive form of measurement, as admissions and success at elite colleges are inseparable from the matrices of privilege and oppression that undergird our world. Yet in the context of pervasive social inequities, world language classes are uniquely situated to strengthen diversity, equity, and inclusion work. As a student at WIS, I learned about diversity and inequities in the French and Spanish-speaking worlds, and by extension grew to understand how significantly language shapes our experiences of the world around us. Amidst recently intensified reckonings about systemic injustice, Wissahickon has renewed its stated intentions to more effectively address discrimination and disproportionality in the district. Many of these invaluable efforts are distilled in WSD's current mission statement, which reads, "The mission of the Wissahickon School District, a learning community where diversity is valued and equity is an ongoing commitment, is to empower each student and staff member to excel to their fullest potential and meaningfully contribute to the greater community." I struggle to understand how reducing and devaluing world language studies aligns with this agenda, and I feel frustrated, confused, and disappointed as I consider the impact these changes will continue to have on students. Thank you.
All right, anyone online? Okay, our last speaker then is Liz Hubby.
Good evening. My name is Liz Huddy. I'm a Spanish teacher and the World Language Department Chair at the middle school. I've been teaching at the middle school for 25 years. Community and belongingness have always been very important to me. So when my principal told me that myself and another colleague were chosen to lead the Hispanic Affinity Group, I was beyond excited. We came up with the name Conectados, which means connected because it fit with our school motto and the sense of belongingness. We planned activities, lessons, and crafts, and we would meet 2 days out of a 6-day cycle during Trojan time this year. When I was in middle school, I was the only one in my grade from a Spanish ethnicity, and I felt alone and very stereotyped. However, in high school, there was a small percentage of students from different Spanish ethnicities, and I really felt included. And finally, there were students I could relate to and connect with. Now, years later, I not only get to teach about my heritage and culture, but I get to share it with other students and colleagues. Recently, I found out that affinity groups would only be able to meet 1 day out of a 6-day cycle next year. This not only includes Conectados, but it also includes ASA, Reading Olympics, Yearbook, Fans, GSA, Student Council, and LEAP. This was quite upsetting, being last year affinity groups met during homeroom every day. The schedule we have this year, homeroom is built into the first 5 minutes of second period. Homeroom was an opportunity to connect with students and create relationships with them, and a perfect time for affinity groups to meet during advisory for connections and activities twice a cycle. Our students need connections. They need to feel accepted, and whether that be sharing a snack with a friend during homeroom, chatting with a teacher, or participating in a group activity is important. The district stresses the importance of making connections with our students and our sense of belonging. But now, without a separate homeroom period and only being able to see students once during a 6-day cycle for an affinity group, this makes this very challenging. Our students are joining these groups because they are proud of who they are and they want to learn and be connected, and especially have a sense of belonging. This current schedule is definitely not providing this for our students.
Thank you, Liz. And I do want to thank you all for feeling comfortable to come forward to the board. And I do want to reassure you that there is no retaliation for coming forward and speaking to us like this. So please don't worry about that. I do want to reassure you. We do appreciate you coming forward with this concern. So thank you. So we don't have anyone else registered? Okay. All right, then we will move on to board comments. Do any of my fellow board members have any comments this evening that they wanted to share with the board? Debbie, yes.
Just a reminder that this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there's this wonderful music production happening at the high school. Please come and support our high school kids. Joe's son's in it, my daughter's in it, and I think it's wonderful to have these events at our schools. So if you haven't bought your ticket, please buy your ticket now.
And I are very excited to come see it. Any other comments?
I'll say quickly, I am very passionate about language as well. I am currently learning another language, and I just think it's so important. My kids are excited about it. And so when this schedule was brought forward, like maybe a year and a half ago, we did hear that the kids would get the same amount of language time. But what I'm hearing now is that the way it's set up may be detrimental. So I would like to have a little bit more information, if I could, about the language program and maybe feedback from principals and teachers on what we could do to improve that. Because there were a lot of good points made, all of which I agree with, and I'd like to see that happen. I also did want to just mention, I feel like on the topic of homeroom, I did want to, you guys, when we talked about changing the start time of the day, you spoke out against, or the high school, taking away homeroom. Can you remind me, is that the same theme in middle school, like that you had meetings during that time? I'm just curious.
There would have been the same issue of like cutting out the affinity groups and like special homerooms, meeting during special homerooms. That change would have involved cutting out homerooms in the high school. So it would have been similar to that issue.
I see. Okay. I just wanted to, remind them. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Other comments, Paul?
Just a quick comment. I know we don't typically comment on speakers, but I do want to recognize, I was not a math major when I was here at Wissahickon, but from those who noted how long they've been with the district, we've heard from a number of teachers today. I think the average is probably 28 years for those who decided to share. That's just amazing tenure, period. So I just want to thank all of the teachers for your service to this district. I was a graduate of Wissahickon in 1986, and don't see any of my teachers here. I do see one of my former schoolmates, though, Kyle Wilson. But just thank you all for your tenure and your hard work.
Any other, Joe?
A couple comments. I want to second what Zeppi said about the high school musical coming up. I'm very excited to see it. And I saw a little bit of I guess someone may have been taping some dress rehearsals and it looks pretty awesome. So please, if you have some time, this was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, make some time to come out to see Pippin at the high school. The second thing is I wanted to acknowledge and thank the teachers for coming out. And I know it probably felt brave to come out to speak your mind and give us your perspective on the middle school schedule changes. And I really hope that we dispel any concerns or perception that there may be retaliation for you guys speaking your truth and your honest opinions about what's happening at the middle school. A lot was discussed about what you guys feel was lost with the changes in the middle school schedule. What I would like to request from Jim or Wenyewe from the administration basically is to maybe like refresh us as board members about what some of the original rationale or basis was for the middle school change. I presume there must have been an intent to gain some things with the changes that were made in exchange for what some of the things were that the teachers feel were lost. But just for us as board members to get a refresher or better understand that, I think would be important. One thing in addition to the middle school schedule change that concerned me was just the sentiment that the changes were made without real collaboration or buy-in generated from the middle school teaching staff and without a clear understanding of the rationale for why the changes were being made in the first place. I think that's not an issue of whether or not the middle school changes had like the right intent or the right purpose, but it speaks to maybe like what sounds like a failing of kind of the human element of implementing any sort of change at the middle school or any organization, and the importance of getting the buy-in and support and the voice and input of the people who are being directly affected. So I would request that at a future either board meeting or maybe a curriculum meeting, we could have a more in-depth discussion about, again, the rationale for the middle school change. And I guess after we've gone through the first year of the new middle school schedule, lessons learned and what the game plan is to make improvements for the coming school year as well.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I understand like this process was over the course of 10 or 12 years. So if we could kind of have like a history of it also and sort of like where we started and how we got to here as part of that presentation. Because I agree, like I'd like to have a better understanding of where the input came from and how we got to this point. Great, thanks, Jim.
Amy, I just want to add, sorry, one more comment, is that the amount of time, energy, effort, or years of, I guess, thinking about a change such as this does not mean that it was implemented well or actually generated the buy-in, collaboration, or input and support that was needed to make it successful. So I don't want us to like, or just be clear that I guess the amount of time that this was contemplated or the amount of effort people might have put into it doesn't take away or forgive, I guess, a poor implementation.
Oh, I completely agree. I just want to kind of understand like how we got to this point.
Sure, absolutely. I don't mean you were trying to imply that. I just want to make clear that you could spend a lot of time and still do something not that great.
Right. No, my understanding is there was a number of people involved. And I just kind of want to understand like how we got to this place.
Sure, agreed.
And on a slightly different note, I mentioned this to Dr. Dewan earlier. There was a community session that was held last week. I unfortunately was not able to attend, even though I registered, sorry. But I did get feedback from multiple people in the community about how well received it was. And it was, I'm not gonna remember the title exactly, so you'll fill us in. But my sentiment is that I am very excited to see more of these community outreach programs. We started with our racial equity, doing them last year a little bit. We had one, I think, last year. Now we're having 2 or 3 this year. Now we had this one. And this is something that I've been wanting to see more and more in our community. I want to applaud my board members who helped push this forward, my administration who's supporting this, because this is how we build our bridges with our community. And I want to see even more if it's possible in the future. I think they're time well spent, and this is something I think our community appreciates. So thank you for that. And you could correct me on the title.
Thank you, Zeppi. The session was on February 27th, and it was a community listening and learning session focused on supporting students in the LGBTQ+ community. Thank you.
And I just want to make a comment on that session as well. I was there, as was Joe's wife and daughter, and it was absolutely eye-opening. And it really gave the community a chance to really open up and be very frank and talk to us about the difficulties that they had. And I thought it was amazing. So I was very happy to attend.
Sorry, I have to add one more comment. So as Rosetta said, my wife and daughter who graduated from Wissahickon in 2020 attended that session that Zeppi was referencing. And they thought it was fantastic, and they learned a lot. One thing that they conveyed to me, which relates to the book challenge discussion we had earlier, one of the challenge books that we discussed earlier this evening was called What Are Your Words? A book about pronouns. And in preparation for our discussion tonight about that challenge book, I read that book myself, and the book is geared, it seems like 5 to 8 year olds, and it's really about normalizing the idea of trying out or experimenting with different gender pronouns. And in addition to the typical male-female pronouns, they also made reference to what my daughter told me are neo-pronouns, which are sort of like gender neutral pronouns, which prior to reading this book didn't know anything about. And in all honesty, when I read that book, I thought to myself, I'm not for banning it, but I can see how it could make some parents uncomfortable, because it's introducing, again, this idea of experimenting with what pronouns feel right for you as like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, that it might seem a little odd to be introducing and maybe potentially quote unquote confusing kids that young. But the workshop that was most recently held, the speaker talked about how trans LGBTQ kids start having, I don't know if gender dysphoria is kind of the right word, but having those feelings or thoughts or I guess confusions as young as like 4 to 6 years old, right? And so
Between 3 and 6 years old.
right, 3 and 6 years old. So just thinking about, like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it happened as early as that. But then that just sort of reinforces my thought that having a book like What Are Your Words, a book about pronouns, having that available in our library to give those types of kids that support and, give them a sense that they're not alone, that other people understand them and recognize what they're going through, and can make them feel like, again, they're not isolated and they're not crazy or weird, is even more important. So that's just one thing I had to kind of throw in there. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Oh, yes, Steve.
Yep, sorry. And coming back again to the middle school comments, thanks again very much for coming out. Appreciate that. As a relatively new board member, in addition to kind of the history around the schedule change, I heard about concerns about things getting dropped or class size, et cetera. I'd also like to understand in the next board discussions around whether efforts have been made from the teachers' end to reach consensus and come to a schedule that works for everybody. Whether suggestions have been made or whatever from the teacher side on not just reverting back to the old schedule, but are there ways to meet the needs of the new schedule? Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Anyone else? I just want to remind everyone it's Read Across America Week, and you're going to be seeing our board members out and about reading. I'm wearing my Piggy and Gerald earring. I have different earrings for every day this week to remind everyone about Read Across America Week. So I look forward to hearing about what everyone read and where you were this week. So just wanted to remind everyone. All right, if there's no other comments, then do we have a motion to adjourn? So moved. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.